What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as Mira, Costa, boys volleyball, repeating as CIF-SS section champions. How did the Mustangs do it? And do they have a dynasty building? Either way, they are here and they are here to stay. Also, how about Taylor Crabb and Andy Bennett winning the Huntington Beach Open? They did it separately many different times, but now they've done it together. Also, how about Pamela and Victoria of Brazil? They won the Huntington Beach Open on the women's side. Are they a pair to watch for when it comes to the 2028 Olympics that will be happening in LA? Also, now that NCAA men's volleyball season is over, what's next? We've got national team season, we've got a few NCAA men's volleyball transfers and transactions happening in terms of like player movement, and so much more. Canyon volleyball, Sefnet, I'm about to circuit volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday morning, Tuesday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 351 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube and on X. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms, aka X only, at iSports Radio. Also, make sure to subscribe to iSports Radio on YouTube. We would definitely appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers, and we're definitely trying to push it. You guys are definitely helping us out, especially to my followers and friends who are subscribing on iSports Radio. I'll definitely continue to pump out the content on iSports Radio if you definitely would like me to. And iSports Radio did turn 12 years old as on, I think it was Friday or Saturday. It just turned 12 years old, and it had its 12-year anniversary ever since it was first born. For the last 12 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premier Brisket Beef Jerky. So without any further delay, let's get on into what our sponsor is all about. I'll see you all in a little bit. That ain't it.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our check out our sponsor, and also check out our website, iesportsradio.com. I'll flash it up right here. Oh, that ain't it. Right here, and let's actually get rid of the ticker just so y'all can see it clearly. Actually, never mind. There you go. It's now displayed down below, and yeah, that's basically how you can find us on our website, iesportsradio.com. And once again, subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. And also check us out on X. And the way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X and on TikTok at set_point.ie. Once again, I promise you all I will do my best to try to be more active on TikTok. I just haven't had really the time. Excuse me for 1 second. Just got to fix this camera up. There we go. Sorry, it kept moving. So, yeah, X is where I'm active. TikTok, I'm going to try to get more active. I'm also on Facebook. Just type in Set Point, and that's how you will be able to find me. There's no way you could probably miss me just because it's basically the beach icon, which on that note, I'm actually on Instagram as well at set_point.iesr. That's actually, my Instagram and Facebook are actually tethered to one another. So if you see some of the posts that are actually the same, then just that's basically the sign where, well, I am on Instagram as well. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I guess a little backstory of why I'm now going to be more active on Facebook is because, like I said, it's tethered to my Instagram, and it's for purposes of growing my Instagram and growing my Facebook as well. So that's why. All right, but enough rambling. You can also follow me personally on X as well at Teran Rodriguez 1. So without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So now that the NCAA men's volleyball season is over, what's next? Well, there's actually some news happening. So there's been some transfers happening. There was a couple transfers. Loyola actually got Stanislaw Chichinski from the Ohio State. Yeah, Stanislaw Chichinski was entered into the transfer portal once the transfer portal opened, and now he's going to be staying in the MIVA, but he'll be going to Loyola Chicago, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. So Loyola gets another big time outside hitter, but when one player goes into the transfer portal, another has to leave, as Bryce Robbins actually transferred from Loyola to McKendree. So that's kind of a big loss. I wouldn't say a big loss. I mean, the Ramblers still have Alexander Sosa, and they still have a lot of good talent on their team. So I think Loyola, there's not going to be too much of a drop-off when it comes to the Ramblers. But in terms of like other teams that had some sort of like player transaction or player movement, Long Beach State's Wojciech Gajek actually will be going pro. So as we all know, Wojciech Gajek was the standout opposite for Long Beach State. Only in his freshman year, I think I don't remember where he's from internationally. I think he's from Serbia or something. But either way, we all know what he's mainly known for, putting the bows down, the shaka down. So yeah, we all know he's well known for that. But he's now going to be playing pro when it comes to volleyball. So he's foregoing the rest of his year. And yeah, Wojciech Gajek he's Polish actually. So just to clarify, Wojciech Gajek is Polish and he's going to be playing pro. And for a little bit more context of him, he played internationally with with Poland's U21 team, which I think is a huge accomplishment in the World Championships in 2025. He was the third leading scorer at the tournament with 138 kills, 23 blocks, and 9 service aces. And he led Poland to a 6th place finish at the tournament. And I think it's pretty darn cool if you ask me. But he is done after 1 year. So I think it's big because when another opportunity comes, you got to take it. And that's interesting. There's actually a picture of Wojciech Gajek, and I think I don't know who else that is. I think that's Jackson Christ attempting to block, and there's me in the background, which I think is pretty cool right there. I'm just now seeing this on the Long Beach State website, but you never know what happens. So I think it's pretty cool if you ask me. But back to Wojciech Gajek. I mean, it's a big loss for Long Beach State, but they still have Daniil Hrstanovic, who I think will definitely be a good security blanket at the opposite position. So Wojciech Gajek not transferring, but playing pro is obviously of the norm when it comes to these talented international players. I mean, you saw what happened with Moni Nikolov last year. He had himself a fantastic year, was named the most outstanding player of the tournament. He was named the player of the year and the newcomer of the year. And now he is off doing bigger and better things. So same thing can be said for Wojciech Gajek, but he wasn't the only international player who is leaving the NCAA men's volleyball scene. You actually had 2 more players heading out to play pro. You got Kristen Tatrisky of Hawaii that's going to be playing pro. So he is from Sofia, Bulgaria, which I think is pretty cool. And once again, I'm seeing myself on the in the picture of Wojciech Gajek and Jackson. I think it's Jackson Christ blocking someone from Hawaii. Either way, Kristen Tatrisky is also going to be playing pro. He's from Sofia, Bulgaria, and he was named to the all-tournament team of the NCAA men's volleyball tournament of this year. So Kristen Tatrisky, he is an interesting case. So Tatrisky actually, how do I say this? He actually was close to having the plug pulled on him. If you all saw my interview with Charlie Wade after the first Long Beach State match, he said, and I quote, Kristen Tatrisky has kind of risen up, and we were close to pulling the plug on him, but he came up big in that 5th set against Long Beach, and he came up big for Hawaii whenever Hawaii needed him to. So Kristen Tatrisky is a fantastic player, and you got to remember, last year he was hurt he didn't get a chance to play in the postseason because he hurt I think it was his ankle. And this year he was actually hurt as he hurt his back. So sadly, we didn't get a chance. He had some ups and downs, but Tatrisky really came up big when Hawaii needed him to, especially since he put down the championship point, which I thought was pretty cool. So his last point at Hawaii was him putting down championship point, kind of like how Moni Nikolov put down championship point with Long Beach State last year, but I digress. But I wish Kristen Tatrisky nothing but the best, and I'm sure our paths will cross sometime down the road. And then lastly, another international player that's going to be playing pro, or another NCAA men's volleyball player that's going to be playing pro that hasn't even really scratched the surface yet, is Andrei Jokanovic. So as we all know, Andrei Jokanovic was a standout from France. He's played a lot of volleyball before coming to UC Irvine. And let me just tell you, Andrei Jokanovic was absolutely breathtaking to watch. And he was a joy to watch when it came to seeing UC Irvine men's volleyball. And what a run that he had. But he will also be playing pro. He'll be foregoing the next 3 years of his NCAA collegiate career. But now he'll be playing pro, which I think is pretty nice if you ask me. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for Andrei Jokanovic, Kristen Tatrisky, and Wojciech Gajek. So I think they're going to do great things, and I hope to see them hopefully somewhere in the future. But I digress. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the NCAA men's volleyball news. So some have actually been telling me that I think a Hawaii fan did actually inform me what's going to happen with, imagine what could happen with Adrian Rohr and Louis Sakanoko. Well, from what I'm hearing, I don't think they're going to be transferring or playing pro just yet. I have kind of been hearing rumblings when it comes to Hawaii in the transfer portal, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to put that live publicly because it's only rumors and nothing is finalized until it's official. So as for Hawaii, I think they'll still be fine. I mean, Hawaii should still be fine. They've only, other than Tetrisky, they only lost one other player, and that was Vladimir Kuber, who that's not going to really be too much of a big loss, with all due respect to Vlad. But Hawaii returns most of their team next year, and they've obviously got their recruiting classes. So I think Hawaii should be fine, barring anything else. So there you have it. I think that this Hawaii team is going to be something special. And man, this thing is like, my camera's like not cooperating with me today, but there we go. Anyway, or my camera stand, that is, but I digress. But yeah, I think Hawaii will be fine. Long Beach State should be fine. UC Irvine, they'll be an interesting case. I think they'll still be fine. They obviously lose out on Will Darcy as well, who graduates, as well as Beck Weber and Aiden Shilton. But I think UC Irvine should have another big recruiting class coming in as well. I mean, they always find players to fill the voids. Same can be said for UC San Diego and all these other schools as well. So I think they'll be fine. But yeah, that's only a bit of the NCAA men's volleyball news. Nothing really too out of the ordinary, nothing too big. As there's actually something that did actually happen. So just going to delete this. So there's actually an off-the-block men's volleyball media poll. So there's the final off-the-block men's volleyball media poll. So in case you're wondering what off-the-block is, it's Vinny Lopes' website, which covers all things men's volleyball, which I think is pretty cool. He does an excellent job with that. He does write-ups and articles, and it's all totally free. There's no paywall, nothing of that sort. So go check out Vinny Lopes' Off the Block and this website. He definitely does a great job. So the final Off the Block men's volleyball media poll. So Hawaii is number 1, UC Irvine is 2, UCLA is 3, Long Beach State is 4, Ball State is 5, Pepperdine is 6, USC 7, Loyola 8, Penn State 9, and BYU is 10. So the only team that did not make the NCAA tournament that is in the top 10 is BYU. So this leads me to think that they actually were the first team out. I mean, some are saying that it was Lindenwood, but let's be honest, Lindenwood lost to Lewis. They lost to Lewis in the first round of the MIVA tournament, and I think that was kind of the coffin. And I don't think they would deserve to be the first one out. I think BYU, if there was another spot in the NCAA tournament, they would be the next one in. So you have that right there. Here's who I voted for in the final Off the Block media poll. So I voted for Hawaii 1, UC Irvine 2, Long Beach State 3, Ball State 4, UCLA 5, Pepperdine 6, USC 7, Loyola 8, BYU 9, and Penn State 10. So I had to put Penn State at 10 just because they pushed UC Irvine to the brink. And let's be honest, we need to start giving these EIVA teams some love. And Penn State nearly knocking off UC Irvine in the first round of the NCAA tournament deserves some sort of recognition and all that sort of thing. So I think I think maybe I kind of did Penn State a little dirty just because they're an EIVA team. I think they deserve to be 9. If I had to redo it, I'd probably flip BYU and Penn State, but I digress. But the reason why I put UCLA at 5 is because, well, for starters, they lost in the not Final Four, the Elite 8, the quarterfinals. If you don't make the quarterfinals, you don't deserve to be in the top 4. I'm sorry, but me putting them at 5 is generous. And they've been number 1 throughout the entire season. So there's no shame in me putting UCLA at 5 instead of number 2 or 3. But honestly, for UCLA, they'll be back. As for the rest of my picks, I put Long Beach State at 3 just because, well, they took down UC Irvine 3 times. Hawaii and UC Irvine at 1 and 2 are obvious just because they're the national champions and national runners-up. Long Beach State at 3 is also kind of obvious just because, well, they made the Final Four. Ball State also was at 4 just because they also made the Final Four, and then so on and so forth. So that's who I put in my off-the-block ballot. I know it's somewhat disagreeable, but it is what it is. All right, but that is that for the off-the-block media poll. And now we are officially done with the NCAA men's volleyball season, unless there's more news that's happening. But there isn't for the time being. So now let's talk a little high school boys volleyball. So Mira Costa wound up repeating as CIF Southern Section Division I champions as they took down Loyola 25-21, 25-22, and 25-22. So I actually got a chance to attend this match. It was on a Friday, and it was originally the start time was 7:30, but since the other final CIF Southern Section final, I think that was in Division 4 between Sunny Hills and Royal of Simi Valley, happened. Unfortunately, the Division 1 final had to be pushed back 30 minutes. So instead of starting at 7:30, it had to be started at 8, which I feel bad. If East Coasters watched this, I'd feel really bad for them. But I am not a big fan of 8 p.m. start times. I'm sorry. I know it's prime time, but it's like I don't like 8 p.m. start times because what if that match had gone 5? I'm fortunate it got done in 3. Otherwise, I would have been up a creek without a paddle. But I digress. But yeah, it was a pretty exciting final. It was a pretty packed crowd, if you ask me. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see the attendance number, which is pretty lame, if you ask me. But here is the final box score. This was actually snapped courtesy of Damian Calhoun of Daily Breeze. And yeah, unfortunately, they didn't put the number in. But here's the stats for the final official statistics. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to snap me a copy because, well, I never got one, and they gave them all out away, which is unfortunate. But I digress in that regard. So I can't complain too much, but thank you to Damian Calhoun for sending me the final stats. He is the real MVP. Like I said, he's part of the Daily Breeze. He covers all South-based sports, and he also covers a little LA Galaxy. So as you saw, Mateo Furbringer had 27 kills. Now, I don't know how many of those kills were actually counted in terms of like net violations. To me, I think if you get a net violation when it comes to attempting a kill, that should not count as a kill. I think that should just count as a point for the other team or an error or something of that sort. It shouldn't count as a kill unless the ball goes down on the floor. But if it's dug up and then there's a net violation, it should not count as a kill. I'm sorry, but that's just how I think it should be. I mean, I think the NCAA does the same thing, but that's just my thing. I think kills should be earned in terms of like putting the ball down instead of like someone touching the net or doing anything of that sort, or the ball being touched off the block. So that's just my 2 cents on kills and net violations and so on and so forth. But 27 kills for Mateo Furbringer. That was over half of what the entire Mira Costa team had in terms of kills. And you know what I said last week's episode of Set Point, right? The team with the best setter is going to win. And Jake Newman, look, nothing against Loyola's setter, but honestly, Jake Newman has that finals pedigree. And I got a chance to interview Jake Newman as well. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to post all of my post-game interviews. I didn't get a chance to post my interviews with Jake Newman and Mateo Furbringer. But one person who I thought stood out was Dane Del Rigo. He was the libero for Mira Costa, and he was just balling out, dude. He was digging everything, and he was passing nails, to my opinion. He was really doing an outstanding job. He even had a lot of amazing plays, which I thought was really darn cool. This kid has a bright future ahead of him, and he's only a junior. Keep in mind is that Dane Del Rigo didn't even start out at the libero. The libero was actually Justin Warner, and then I guess Dane Del Rigo worked his way up the food chain. He eventually got the starting position. And again, I'm kind of guilty of not seeing a whole lot of Mira Costa boys volleyball because prior to the CIF Southern Section playoffs, the last time I had seen Mira Costa was against Corona Del Mar, but that was way back in the season. I think that was like in the 3rd week of the season of the CIF Southern Section boys volleyball season. And that was when they still had their standard lineup with the likes of Teddy Mandelbaum, as well as the likes of Teddy Mandelbaum and Justin Warner. So their lineup didn't really change too much. They just had Enzo Barker and I forget the guy's last name, but it's like his last name is Tucker. I don't know his first name, but I digress. But yeah, I will say this: Mira Costa, they weren't even there at their best, in my opinion. I didn't think they played their greatest ball, but they played well enough to win. And sometimes that's just how it is, as a coach one time told me. So yeah, this Mira Costa team, it's the first time they've repeated as CIF Southern Section champions since 2001, 2002. But that was back when they were in Division 2. Now they're in Division 1. And let me tell you how difficult it is to repeat in the CIF Southern Section in Division 1. It's really tough because there are a lot of good teams like Loyola, Corona Del Mar, Huntington Beach, Newport Harbor, Redondo Union. The list goes on and on. The four that I just named after Mira Costa are the ones that are pretty much always in the mix. But yeah, Mira Costa repeating as CIF Southern Section Division 1 champions is a big deal because the last time we had back-to-back champions was Newport Harbor back in 2022 and 23. 2022, 2023. And the fact that Mira Costa has made the finals in the 3 years that Greg Snyder has taken over as head coach is also pretty incredible as well. It just shows that he was ready to take over as head coach following Avery Dross stepping down. Now for Loyola, I didn't think they played bad. I will say this, JP Wardy, he had himself a solid game. He just kind of got off to I would say a sluggish start, a slow start. And the Mira Costa students were letting him have it. It seemed like every point that JP Wardy either got blocked or he missed a swing or he served it into the net or served it out of bounds. The Mira Costa students would always be chanting, JP's rattled. JP's rattled. I felt bad for JP, but he eventually finished up with 13 kills, which I think he actually had 7 in the third set. Rafa Milchin, who's also on the rise, who's been playing right side, he finished with 12 kills. Blake Fallbush had 9 kills. He also had an amazing assist, as he actually had a jump assist while jumping over a player. So overall, it was a very fun match. I'm surprised it ended in a 3-set result. Set 3, I thought that was Loyola's best chance to extend the match. Unfortunately, Mira Costa had other plans, and this just goes to show the championship pedigree that Mira Costa has, because Mira Costa is never out of a match. Never, ever, ever. And Loyola did all that they could. And like I said, Mira Costa didn't even play their best ball. But I will just say, I think for Mira Costa, they just always find ways to win, and that's how you're supposed to. That's how champions do it. That's how you win championships. You find ways to win, and Mira Costa, lo and behold, they did that. So keep an eye on Mira. And someone did actually inform me that Mira Costa is going to be good in the following years, and they definitely will. They will lose out on players like Jake Newman and Wyatt Davis and a few others, but they should have Teddy Mandelbaum returning. Mateo Furbringer's obviously going to return unless he pulls a Tread Rosenthal and he forgoes his senior year to play at UCLA, but I digress. And then they've got Dane Del Rigo returning as well. I mean, barring anything happening, I think this Mira Costa team is still going to be up there, and they could have a chance to three-peat, which I'll have to dig up when was the last time they did that. It might have been in that same span of 2001, 2002 when they went back-to-back when they were in Division 2. And back in those years, CIF didn't have divisions based on skill level. They had divisions based on like school size. Like if you were a small school, you'd probably get put in like Division 2 or Division 3. And then eventually they scrapped that rule in like 2013, and they eventually just they eventually had like divisions changing every single year. And then eventually in 2022, they had power rankings. Or actually, no, I think it was 2024 they had power rankings of which team gets to be put where in terms of the end of the regular season. But yeah, for Mira Costa, they're definitely going to be up. They're definitely going to be up there again, and they still have the CIF state playoffs that's going to be happening this year. So this is definitely going to be something special for Mira Costa. And let's actually preview a little bit of those CIF state playoffs, shall we? So where are you, CIF? Okay, so here's I'm only going to limit this to Division One, and I'm also going to say that the bracket was released Sunday. I thought I was about to say yesterday, but it was released Sunday. I got to remember this isn't Monday. So the Division One Northern California bracket consisted of Northgate, Jesuit, Bellarmine College Prep, Archbishop Mitty, Buchanan, Clovis, St. Francis of Mountain View, and Bullard. I'm just going to be 100% realistic, and this is no offense to any of these 8 teams. I'm not really high on the NorCal teams. Like, I don't think any of them are even in the top 25 in terms of max preps. Maybe Northgate, which is actually 34-1. But I guess if I had to pick teams, let's actually just make some picks. So Northgate, Bullard. Northgate will win. Jesuit, St. Francis. I actually think St. Francis actually has a chance to pull the unthinkable, but I think Jesuit pulls off a close win. Bellarmine College Prep, Bellarmine College Prep, Clovis. I think Clovis also keeps it close, but I think Bellarmine College Prep wins it in a close one. Archbishop Mitty, Buchanan. That one can go either way, but I think Archbishop Mitty will take the win just because they're then interim coach. I think they have some players still from last year's team that are still on this year's team. And then, that last year's Archbishop Mitty team that won the Northern California region that made it all the way to the state final is back. But Northgate and Archbishop Mitty, I think Archbishop Mitty can actually beat Northgate. The problem is that I don't know if this Archbishop Mitty team has the horses like it did last year. I think Northgate will pull it off, but in a close one. And then I actually have Bellarmine College Prep pulling off the upset against Jesuit. But in the end, I have Northgate advancing past the Northern California section. All right, so that's the Northern California regional. Now for the Southern California regional. So you got Mira Costa, Loyola, Huntington Beach, Redondo Union, Corona Del Mar, Newport Harbor, the Bishop School, and Torrey Pines. So let's go through these matchups one by one. By the way, the first round starts tonight in terms of state, unless noted otherwise. So Mira Costa, Loyola, or not Mira Costa, Loyola, Mira Costa, Torrey Pines. So higher seed gets the home court advantage no matter what happens. Here's the thing for Torrey Pines. They actually finished as the runner-up in terms of the San Diego Open Division section. Problem is that they're facing a buzzsaw in Mira Costa. That said, I think Torrey Pines can actually keep it close. I think they've got a few good players like I think his name is Declan Flanagan, but they can only go as far as he can take them. And I think as good as Torrey Pines is, Mira Costa is like 100 times better. So give me Mira Costa. Unless Mira Costa has like a championship hangover, I think Mira Costa will pull off the win. Now for the 4-5 matchup between Corona Del Mar and Redondo Union. So both of these teams are an interesting case. Corona Del Mar has a lot of senior leadership, and so does Redondo Union. The way Redondo Union can win is if they serve the ball really tough. If they serve the ball tough and they get Corona Del Mar out of position, Redondo Union might have the edge over them. But I'm actually going to give the edge to Corona Del Mar. I think Corona Del Mar wins this one, and I'm going to base this off of senior leadership just because the Sea Kings do have a lot of good talent on their team, like Ben Brown, Hunter Hanneman, Drake Foley, Daniel Booker, who's, even though he's a junior, Jack Robinson, Brady Gant, Marco DeBella, even though he is a junior. And then they've got Chapman Warmington, the libero. So I think Corona Del Mar will pull off a close win on the road. I think having 2 weeks off will definitely help the Sea Kings out just because it kind of unplugs them from everything that happened in the Division I playoffs. And it kind of gives them a little bit of time to rest and maybe game plan for who they'll take on. So I think Corona Del Mar pulls off the win over Redondo Union, but in a close one. Next up, we got Newport Harbor, the 6th seed, taking on the 3 seed Huntington Beach. Fourth meeting between these two teams. As close as Newport Harbor has gotten, Huntington Beach has always found a way to deny them the win. I want to say Newport Harbor can win this one, and I'm actually going to be in attendance. So 6 p.m. at Huntington Beach, your boy will be there. That being said, it's so tough to really say that Newport Harbor has a chance because against all of the teams, all the Southern Section teams that made the Division I bracket in state, they have not gotten one win against any of those teams. And against all the teams in their region that they faced off against, they've only wound up beating one team, and that was Torrey Pines in a best 2 out of 3 match at Best of the West. And that was in a consolation match. So heaven knows if Torrey Pines wasn't even playing their starters. But yeah, look, I think Newport Harbor can keep it close against Huntington Beach, and you have to look at all the times Newport Harbor has played Huntington Beach. They went 3 in Best of the West in the quarterfinals, lost a heartbreaker, and probably could have beaten them in 2 had it not been for losing a tight set 2. And then the first meeting in the Sunset League play between Huntington and Newport. Newport was up 2-0 on Huntington, had a chance to put them away in set 4, but then Huntington Beach reverse swept them. Then the second meeting in Sunset League play, Newport won the first set, but then they just couldn't finish the rest of the way. And that seems to be the problem with Newport Harbor. Unless they remedy the whole starting and finishing problem, I think Huntington Beach will beat Newport Harbor. It'll be close. I think Newport Harbor can really give them a run for their money, but I think Huntington Beach has so much talent and so much firepower. The only concern is if Carter Tchaikovsky doesn't play, because he actually just came back from his little trip with the US U17 team, I think. And by the way, that US U17 team got silver as they fell to Canada in a 5-set barn burner. But even if Carter Tchaikovsky somehow doesn't play, I think Huntington Beach should be fine. I think they have another good setter on their bench that can fill in for Carter as well. So there you go. And then the Bishop School taking on Loyola, the 7 versus the 2. The Bishop School actually wound up winning the CIF San Diego section boys volleyball championship in the open division, which I think is a massive deal right there. And their head coach is Chris Schaefer. And fun fact, this Bishop School team is kind of on the up and up. This is kind of the first few years that the Bishops have actually kind of been relevant. And I'm not trying to say that in a negative way, because the last time I really heard of the Bishop School was probably in the 90s when Steve Conti started up the Bishop School on the girls' side and then eventually started up the Bishop School boys volleyball team on that side as well. So I think it's a long time coming for the Bishop School. I think it's really cool that they're now on the up and up, but let's all be honest with ourselves. Yeah, they wound up winning the CIF San Diego section. They're going to face Loyola, and Loyola is going to be mad as heck. My only concern for Loyola is if they have a championship hangover, a CIF Southern Section Division I championship hangover. But I think Loyola is going to win because it's a long trip down from San Diego all the way to Los Angeles. And honestly, Loyola is going to be really mad after they wound up losing to the likes of, Mira Costa. So Loyola is going to probably win that one. Maybe the Bishop School can give them a run for their money, but honestly, Loyola is just way too good. So there you have it right there. And I will give credit to Chris Schaefer, former NVA player. He was darn good. He's done a real darn good job of coaching the Bishop School and coaching them to a CIF San Diego section open division title. But against Loyola, it's going to be a whole different story. So there you go. All right, but that is that right there for the high school boys volleyball scene, and it doesn't look like I have any commercials. So we're actually going to keep this going. I'm actually going to make this a very, very, very short, maybe not very, very short, but not as long of an episode as I initially thought, but you know what I mean. So there's not too much to talk about. Let's actually talk a little AVP action. So AVP, where art thou? AVP, paging. Here you go. Here's the AVP. So the AVP Huntington Beach AVP Huntington Beach Open action. I actually got to attend this on Saturday and Sunday. First and foremost, thank you to Greg Bull for approving me for a credential. Salute to you, good sir. It really means a lot. And also, thank you very much to Dan Thomas for accommodating me when it comes to when it came to everything and getting interviews and so on and so forth. And thank you to all the student, or not the student athletes, the athletes and the coach. I did actually have to interview a coach, but I will just say it was very fun. I will also just mention, now that it's Beachball AVP season, pack your sunscreen to those that are going to be covering the AVP, because I actually got sunburned. It was not fun by any means. It really stung like the dickens. I didn't actually pack sunscreen on either day of the week. I didn't pack sunscreen on the first day of the week, or not the first day of the week, the second day of the tournament and the first day that I attended. But honestly, I got sunburnt. It doesn't look like, surprisingly, I did not peel, which hopefully I don't peel. But I actually did. Even though I did get sunburnt, I did apply some aloe vera, but surprisingly, I'm not peeling. So it's a miracle if you ask me. So, but again, AVP reporters and photographers and anyone who's covering the AVP, do pack your sunscreen. Do pack your sunscreen. Please, 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 please do not forget about your sunscreen. Otherwise, you're going to get sunburnt like me. Or maybe it'll be a nice little golden tan. But anyway, let's recap the tournament. So when it came to the men's side, Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish wound up winning on the men's side, and then winning on the women's side was actually Palmela and Victoria. So a little bit more context when it comes to Palmela and Victoria. They're actually from Brazil, so they're actually, and I actually do got to mention that they're actually the first Brazilian pair to win the Huntington Beach Open, which I think is really cool. I don't know if they're the first Brazilian pair to win a AVP tournament in general, but it's really cool that they wound up making history. So for more context of how impressive them winning the tournament was, is they actually lost in the second round. So they took down so Palmela and Victoria, they wound up taking down the 14th seed in the first round, which was Evans and Van Winden. I'm not sure if it's Tori Van Winden or if it's the other Van Winden, but either way, you know what I mean. But looking at, it was Anaya Evans and Tori Van Winden. So pretty close in the first set, but then the second set, it was pretty much all Palmela and Victoria. So Victoria Lopez and Palmela Cordello. But then in the second round, Palmela and Victoria actually wound up losing to Sarah Hughes and Allie Batenhorst, which was the 11th seed. And that's actually something I do need to make note of. Sarah Hughes and Allie Batenhorst also took down Molly Shaw and Teran Rodriguez, which I thought was pretty impressive if you ask me. Yeah, Batenhorst and Hughes actually made it all the way to the quarterfinals of the winners bracket, only to lose to Megan Kraft and Kelly Cheng, which I kind of feel that was kind of expected, just because Kelly Cheng has played against the likes of Sarah Hughes as well as Megan Kraft. She's actually faced the likes of Allie Batenhorst and Sarah Hughes. So familiarity was kind of the reason why Hughes and Cheng, or I'm sorry, not Hughes and Cheng, Hughes and Batenhorst did not beat Cheng and Kraft. But back to Palmela and Victoria, they actually wound up winning their way through the contenders bracket, and eventually they made it to the semifinals of the Huntington Beach Open. They took down Megan Kraft and Kelly Cheng in the semifinals. They took them down in straight sets, and they handled them really good. I was very impressed with how those two took down Cheng and Kraft, especially since Cheng is a Olympian. But it shows that Victoria and Palmela they're determined for the 2028 Olympics. I talked to their head coach, Ricardo. he said they're absolutely hopeful for the Olympics. That's the main goal right there. But it is also their first AVP event. I think it's also their first event that they've played in. It's actually their first AVP event they've played in, period, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. So the other semifinal was actually Taryn Brasher and Kristen Cruz, as well as Devin Newberry and Savvy Simo Corey. So I actually forgot about this. Savvy Simo actually got married to Evan Corey, which I think is pretty cool. But for the path that Simo Corey, and Newberry had to take, they actually wound up winning their first round matchup against Megan Rice and Gina Arango, the 8 seed. But then they lost in the second round to TKN, but then they wound up winning their way through the contenders bracket. Basically, this tournament was double elimination. It's not like last year where it was single elimination, where if you lost once, you were out. But now this tournament was if you could lose once, but you can't lose twice. And as for TKN, they actually wound up winning their first matchup against the wild card participant, the 16 seed, and they took down Devin Newberry and Savvy Simo Corey in 3 sets. Then the quarterfinals, TKN actually took down a familiar foe in Melissa Humana Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson of Canada, which I thought was pretty cool. And that was actually the 21st meeting between those two, and TKN actually leads the series 14-7. Fun fact. So TKN eventually advanced to the semifinals, where they actually took on Devin Newberry and Savvy Simo Corey. But unlike the round 2 matchup, Devin Newberry and Savvy Simo Corey actually pulled out the Uno reverse card and took down TKN in 3 sets, which I thought was really impressive if you ask me. And that was a very cool win by Newberry and Simo as they advanced to the Huntington Beach Open, but they eventually fell to Talmela and Victoria of Brazil. So that was really cool history in terms of Talmela and Victoria making that history right there. And overall, I like the parity of the women's side. It felt like there was a lot of talent, and anyone could have won that tournament. It was looking like TKN could have wound up winning the whole thing, but unfortunately, they fell in the semifinals, and they got off to such a slow start in that 3rd set. They had to play catch up, and even though they almost got to them, they just unfortunately couldn't put down that 1 point to tie set 3 up at 14-14. So there you go. So now as for the men's side of things, so as we all know, Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish wound up winning the whole thing. So Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish actually wound up winning their way through the winner's bracket. They only dropped 1 set all the way up to the semifinals. As for the 1 seed, that was Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. They actually wound up winning their first 2 matches against the 16 seed, then against the 8 seed. Then they kind of got a little bit of a challenge against the likes of Miles Partain and James Shaw. That one could have gone either way, but Budinger and Evans, they wound up winning. That actually wound up being a 3-set match, where in the 3rd set, Budinger and Evans wound up winning it 15-13. And you got to feel for Miles Partain and James Shaw. They actually wound up losing another 3-set match, which set 3 was 15-13. And it's a bummer. And that was actually to Derek Bradford and Evan Corey. So unfortunately, that's just how it is for Miles Partain and James Shaw. But honestly, they're still a great duo, and I don't think Partain's going to be taking this too much down on their luck. But I think for Miles Partain and James Shaw, they have a lot of up and up in terms of their future. So as for the wild cards, or the ones coming out of the contenders bracket, that actually went to the likes of Ahmed and Sharif of Qatar. So, like I mentioned last week's show, I think it's actually pronounced Ahmed, but Ahmed and Sharif of Qatar, they're actually in the AVP Huntington Beach Open, which I think is really cool if you ask me. A Qatarian duo in this tournament is really unique. It helps spread the awareness of international ball. And you got to remember, this isn't the first rodeo of Sharif and Ahmed, especially since they've played in tournaments like this. Okay, maybe not AVP tournaments like this, but in terms of like playing in California, they've played in tournaments like that, which I think is really cool. Because remember, they actually got to play in the Newport Beach Invitational for the FIVB, which I actually got to see them win gold. So that was pretty cool right there. But yeah, Sharif and Ahmed wound up winning their way into the semifinals from the contenders bracket. And then the lowest seed that wound up, well, maybe not the lowest seed, but the lowest seed of the 4 teams that made the semifinals, Derek Bradford and Evan Corey, they wound up winning their way through the contenders bracket, which eventually wound up beating Miles Partain and James Shaw. So the semifinals was Chase Budinger and Miles Evans taking on Ahmed and Sharif. And then you also had Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish taking on Evan Corey and Derek Bradford. But in the end, it was all chalk in the semifinals. The number 1 and number 2 seed wound up winning. And yeah, it was number 1 seed versus number 2 seed. So Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish, they actually wound up winning. They've been winning the past 4 AVP Huntington Beach Opens with different partners. The problem is that they haven't won the tournament together. But in their way is the great duo from the Olympics, Miles Evans and Chase Budinger. But unfortunately for Budinger and Evans, they wound up falling to Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish. And the the second set actually could have gone either way. It looked like that this match was going to a third set. But then credit to Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish. They dodged a couple set points. Then it was 21-21, and Andy Benish dealt 2 service aces, and he had that walk-off service ace, which I thought was really cool. That was kind of the MO for Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish, serving tough. They served tough, and honestly, that was how they wound up winning, which I thought was really cool if you ask me. So overall, Benish and Crabb only dropped 1 set all tournament. And surprisingly, that came at the hands of Troy Field and Ryan Wilcox. So Troy Field, as we all know, is a experienced AVP player, as well as Ryan Wilcox. Maybe not as experienced as Field, but still pretty good, if you ask me. So the fact that Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish, that was actually their first AVP event together. The fact that they wound up winning that event, the Huntington Beach Open, is really good. And actually, one person asked me, do you think they can make it happen in the 2028 Olympics? I think it's definitely possible. Crabb has had past experience in the Olympics. Benish had recent experience in 2024 with Miles Evans. I really think that Andy Benish and Taylor Crabb can be a thing come the Olympics. Now, in 2 more weeks, we'll get to see what they can do in the Czech Republic. And then obviously Matt Furbringer is going to be their head coach, and he's also going to be the men's beach volleyball head coach, which I think is pretty cool as well. But yeah, that is pretty much that when it comes to the Huntington Beach Open. And I enjoyed this whole thing. Now, something I will advise to those that want to cover the AVP, bring a fully compatible brick that is consistent. Bring sunscreen. Bring a bunch of chargers, bring a bunch of phone chargers, maybe bring your own power outlet, bring a lot of things. Bring a lot of water as well in the event that the AVP doesn't provide you with water, but I doubt that to be true. But yeah, be prepared when it comes to this whole AVP experience. And yeah. Now, as for the next as for the next AVP tournament, that will actually be in where's the I guess the next event is going to be in Belmar, New Jersey. So this is actually that's going to start the AVP League in week 1. So there's nothing going to be happening in the AVP for this week, but in Belmar, New Jersey, on May 30th through the 31st, that's going to be the first week of the AVP League. And then after that, you've got June 6th and 7th. A real funny AVP. Way to put that on 6th and 7th. On June 6th and 7th, the AVP League Week 2 will be in Aspen, Colorado. Week 3 will be in Miami, Florida on June 12th and 13th. Week 4 will be in Las Vegas, Nevada, which I think is pretty cool. Week 5 will be in Long Beach. Thank you for correcting that, AVP. Thank you. They originally put it as Los Angeles, but they corrected it to Long Beach. Let me just say Long Beach is in the Los Angeles area, but Long Beach is its own thing. So please stop classifying Long Beach as Los Angeles. It's in LA County, yes, but it's not Los Angeles. There you go. So interesting. Long Beach, July 11th through the 12th, it's going to be in Long Beach. I wonder where they're going to have it held at. They're certainly not going to have it in the Walter Pyramid. So I imagine it's probably going to be in like maybe Rosie's Dog Park or something. Or is that in Huntington? Either way, I know I want to be there. I want to be at that AVP League Week 5. Your boy has to be there. And that's going to be another big thing. I want to cover more AVP. That's because I don't want just be me covering the Huntington Beach Open and then just poof, that's it. I want to cover more AVP League just so it shows that I care for the AVP and the AVP knows that I care for it. And then week 6 of the AVP League is in New York City, New York. Week 7 is in East Hampton. And then week 8 is in Dallas, which, God, that's the one time I wish I could be visiting my brother. But I digress. And then the Manhattan Beach Open is going to be from the August 14th through the 16th. And it's another heritage major event. And that's going to be an event that I want to go to. Even if it means I have to I have to like book a hotel and like go to that. I want to go to that event. Is it going to be tough? Of course it is. But can I do it though? Absolutely I can. And especially on a Sunday. Sundays are going to be tough for me when it comes to the fall, but we'll see. And then the last event will be the AVP League's the AVP League Championship, which will be held in Chicago, Illinois, from September 5th through the 6th. There's more tournaments happening. There's going to be more tournaments happening. They've also got the Mother Lode on September 5th through the 7th. They've got the Midwest Open from September 26th through the 27th. They've got the Wapaka Open from July 9th through the 10th. The Denver Open from July 4th through the 5th. The AVP Virginia Beach Open from June 13th through 14th. The AVP South Florida Open from May 23rd through to the 24th. So that's going to actually be this week. So I apologize. There's actually going to be a event happening. The AVP South Florida Open, which I think is pretty cool. And then they've also got the AVP Santa Barbara Open from the October 2nd through the 3rd. And they've also got the AVP Laguna Open from September 18th through the 16th, which, again, Sundays are going to be tough for me. But if I can make it work, I'm going to make it work. The problem with the AVP happening in September is that it happens in NCAA women's volleyball season, and God, it's so tough to go to commute. You already know what I said, but yeah, Manhattan Beach Open is kind of the goal for me, so we'll see what happens. But let's actually check if there's no bracket when it comes to the South Florida Open. Thanks, AVP. Way to be on top of it. And apparently the AVP didn't stream their matches on the first day of the AVP League. Or not, I'm sorry. They didn't stream their matches on the first day of the AVP Huntington Beach Open. So they were able to stream the rest of the way, but I digress. All right, but that's that for the AVP. I don't want to bash them. They did so much for me, and I appreciate them. I really do appreciate them credentialing me and letting me cover the action. It meant a lot. All right, but that's that for the AVP. So now let's talk about what's next in the volleyball world. So what's next, dare you ask? It's national team season. There's the VNL that's going to be happening. There's going to be more AVP tournaments. And then there's the CIF state playoffs. And then there's also other state high school boys volleyball state playoffs and championships that's probably happening that I'm not aware of. But I digress. But as for the national team season, so I actually just got the green light today that I got approved for a credential to cover the scrimmage, the U.S. Women's National Team scrimmage at Mira Costa High tomorrow, which I think is pretty cool. So thankfully, I was able to get on the horn and inform Laura Fawcett that if I was credentialed or not. And she did say that she did approve of me of being credentialed, which I think is really cool if you ask me. So As for if they're going to be streaming it or not, I don't know if they're going to be streaming the red versus blue scrimmage. And I can't really confirm that. I'm sorry, everybody. And I'm certainly not going to be streaming that. So don't you dare ask me if I'm going to be streaming. So, as for this whole scrimmage, I definitely do encourage you all to go out to Mira Costa High and, head out there and check out the action. I think it's going to be really fun, if you ask me, if you go check out the action, just because you'll get a first glimpse of the U.S. women's national team before they head off to the VNL. I don't know if there's going to be any other events happening, but yeah, I'm excited. First and foremost, thank you to Laura Fawcett for getting back to me so quickly. I wasn't expecting her to get back to me until maybe after the show, but she actually got back to me like right before I went live, and she said, I did approve of you for a credential, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you, Laura Fawcett, for approving me for a credential. And yeah, you're going to see your boy, Teran Rodriguez, at Mira Costa High tomorrow for the red versus blue U.S. women's volleyball scrimmage. So best believe I'm going to be there, going to be bringing you all the action, going to be bringing you post-game content, and you already know it's going to be fun times right there. And if you see me, definitely come say hi to me. The only thing I don't recommend for you all, once again, is please don't ask me to stream the event. I'm not going to stream, and if I do stream it, then USA Volleyball is going to probably confiscate my credential and probably kick me out and maybe never allow me to attend another event. So I can't stream anything for you all. But what I can do is I can bring you all the coverage and the action. It's going to be fun times. So there you go. But yeah, national team season is starting. We already know. I already told you all about what happened with the U17 championship. Canada wound up winning a 5-set barn burner over the U.S. on the boys' side, and I forget who the MVP was, but I know he's a Long Beach State commit. And yeah, Long Beach State's going to get another big-time Canadian, which I think is really cool, if you ask me. And then there you have it right there, and that is basically going to be it. I guess a little. Sorry, I got the hiccups. I guess a little bit more NCAA women's volleyball news. So if you all followed Emily Eamon and I guess what's her face, Michaela Chester, and there was one more. They actually went to the Bahamas for a little bit of coverage of what's going to be like when it comes to NCAA women's volleyball matches, when it comes to them playing their matches over there. I know Purdue and Kentucky is going to be there, and then a couple other teams. But yeah, there was actually some NCAA women's volleyball news in terms of the transfer portal. So this was announced at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So Logan King, a Long Beach State Long Beach State standout. She's actually going to be transferring from Long Beach State to Florida. And I'm going to give you all my honest opinion. I'm bummed that she's transferring. It felt like Long Beach State had something going with Logan King. Unfortunately, I guess Logan wanted to, spread her wings out and become well known. And not that Long Beach State isn't really big time. It's just that they don't play in a Power 4 conference. Playing at Florida is probably going to help her. And I hate to say that. I really hate to see her go, because Logan King is a very, 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 very talented opposite. But I think she's going to do so much better at Florida. She is going to be well known there, and she's going to make a name for herself. And I can't wait to see what she's going to do, just because, for starters, she is a talent unmatched at the opposite position. I just think she's going to get more recognition and probably a bigger and better opportunity. And it's not that I don't think she would have wound up winning. She would have had a good chance of winning the national championship with Long Beach, and she's going to have a better chance of winning it with Florida. I just think that Logan's going to have a bigger and better time with Florida in terms of getting recognized all over the world and so on and so forth. But I do wish Logan King the best. It is going to be sad to see her leave, but I think Long Beach State will be fine. I think I've got a few other talented players. I know they got I think her name is Murphy Kendall or Kendall Murphy from Baylor. She didn't see a whole lot of time, but she was pretty darn good. And they've also got Reagan Hope, who's transferred from Arizona State to Long Beach State. They also got Danny Thomas-Nathan transferring from USC to Long Beach State for her final year of eligibility. They've also got two really good players, two really good freshmen in Emma Gardner and Kyler Birkelbach, who I think are both going to be really good. They've also got a few other standout players returning. They've got Maddie Maxwell returning. I think Long Beach State should still be in contention for a Big West Conference championship, even though I know Cal Poly is still going to be up there, and then UC Davis is going to be up there. But yeah, Florida, you got a good one, and I wish Logan King the best, and I got to give her a set point salute. But yeah, I think she's going to do great things. And funny, Cheese Trader, one of my followers on X, he says, Ryan Tice is collecting pins like crazy. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he's definitely collecting pins like crazy and so on and so forth. So yeah, there you go. That's a little bit of that NCAA women's volleyball news. It's almost going to be NCAA women's volleyball season before we know it. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Not a whole lot to discuss just because we're kind of in that off season. Oh, like just only talking high school boys volleyball. I guess speaking of high school boys volleyball, I guess I might as well just talk about the rest of my picks when it comes to the boys volleyball, the Southern section boys volleyball side. So let's actually backtrack to the CIF Southern section state playoffs, or the CIF state SoCal region playoffs. So I have Mira Costa, Loyola, Huntington Beach, and Corona Del Mar advancing. So I would have Mira Costa and Corona Del Mar facing each other in the SoCal regional semifinals. I would have Mira Costa winning. I think CDM could actually challenge Mira Costa. I think it's been a minute since Mira Costa has faced Corona Del Mar, just because Corona Del Mar has a whole different lineup. But I'm not making the same mistake this time. I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid. I think Mira Costa is going to win. Now, I have nothing against Corona Del Mar. It's just that I feel that the Sea Kings, look, they're going to be on the road, and I think Mira Costa is a whole better team. Yeah, they've got some good, talented players that are athletic as well, but honestly, I still don't think they're going to be a match for Mira Costa. It'll be close, though. And then Loyola Huntington Beach. Oh, this one's a tough one. You know what? Call me crazy. I'm going to take Huntington Beach. I'll take Huntington Beach over Loyola. I feel bad that I have to do this to my good friend Michael Boley, but I think Huntington Beach finds a way. The last time these two teams met, it was a 5-set thriller where Huntington Beach was down 0-2, wound up winning the next two, but couldn't win that 5th set. I think Huntington Beach now has a better understanding, especially since they now know that Rafa Milchin's now in the lineup and in the mix when it comes to Loyola. So there you have it. And then I have Mira Costa advancing to the CIF State Championship, which will be next week. So basically it'll be all chalk all one seats when it comes to the CIF State Division I Championship. Is that boring? Maybe. But honestly, it's kind of the truth. So there you go. All right, now that'll do it for this week's episode of Set Point. And speaking of Mira Costa High, I will see you all tomorrow at Mira Costa High School for the Red-Blue U.S. Women's National Team Scrimmage. Have yourself a great rest of the day. Enjoy all the volleyball action, and I will see you on the other side. Take care, everybody. Peace. Anytime now.